Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Marcia Parker.
And we just purged.
Ow!
That's right, you guys. We just got back from the First Purge, and it was an advanced screening that we got to go to as guests rather than press.
Yay!
So we get to put this review up right away.
Lucky you guys.
Exactly.
Lucky us, lucky you. Everybody wins.
Truly lucky us, because I'll tell you what, we're going to do this review like we normally do. We do our overall thoughts, then we talk about the story, the acting, the effects, the music, the sound, everything is involved in this picture.
Yep.
And we have reviewed, I think we've reviewed at least a couple of them, if not all of them on this channel.
I feel like we've done all of them.
We might have, but definitely at least the last one. And what we said in the last review for the Purge election year was that we all loved it. I thought that the series had been getting better and better. And I was truly worried. I'm like, okay, this is the fourth in the series. To have the fourth now be better than the third, that's a long thing, or that's a tough thing to ask for. It's a long stretch to reach.
And a prequel at that.
A prequel at that, exactly. Yeah. But I'll be perfectly honest, I think the fact that it was a prequel helped the movie exponentially.
Yes.
I think it made it such a more interesting, engaging story, and the backdrop is stuff that you wanted from the earlier movies that you finally got in this one. So, I mean, I don't want to get too far into it yet. I will just suffice it to say that I loved this entry, and I do indeed believe that it has gotten better, again, from 3 to 4. While there wasn't a moment that felt as satisfying as a particular moment in the last one, this was an overall better, more cohesive, more engaging story experience for me.
I agree with the story aspect for sure, because I feel like in the previous ones you don't really care that much about the protagonists, and really any of them. The last one you did a little bit more, but there still wasn't enough there for you to actually care if they don't die. You know, you're like, oh, this could work, this couldn't. If they lived, they died, whatever. But the first one, you hated everybody, wanted everybody to die. The second one, it was a little bit more balanced. But I think in this one, they did a fantastic job building the character development, making you really feel for the people involved, even the ones that aren't in there the whole time. Just even like the side characters, you really enjoy. The acting was fantastic. The music was great. The kills weren't as much and as intensive that you would expect, but at the same time, you kind of have to going into it because it is the first one. So there's a lot of things politically about the Purge that in this round that actually hits home, and also touches things that we don't typically talk about, but does happen. And I think they did a fantastic job, and I think everybody who's a fan of the series or even not should watch this movie.
I'm willing to bet this is going to do the best of all of them, because it definitely targets a different audience, in my opinion. It targets the audience that loves chaos, that's for sure. But the whole it became a much more sort of urban film with black protagonists, multicultural protagonists and side characters, not that many white characters, which was absolutely fine.
The white ones that you get, you don't particularly
care for.
Yeah,
that's true. And on the heels of Get Out last year, it doesn't surprise me that we're starting to get more of this, and that's absolutely fine because it allows for new sides of the same sort of story that we've gotten in the past. We've had 3 movies where it was white characters having to survive the Purge. Now it's multiracial characters, or characters of multi-races, having to... I'm sure there's multiracial ones in there too, but I'm just saying...
But
they have to... How did they deal with it?
It's a focus of it, and...
Hyper-focused, actually.
Right, and it's touching on what all of the other movies alluded to. And I don't think this is much of a spoiler because they do talk about it in the other movies, is that the design was to really focus on eliminating the lower class
impoverished people.
Right. And you actually get to experience that, and you're going to get more of an idea of why, and how it really evolved. And it really, one thing I really like is what you think is happening and what happened and how the purge evolved isn't because of people.
Mm-mm.
It had a helping hand, and I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, well, that's what's part of the interesting thing about how the story plays out. So, if you guys didn't know, obviously, this is called The First Purge because it's a prequel to the other films. And it is literally the first time that this universe, this world, this Earth, is encountering and putting into effect the purge. It's actually not called an event. It is an experiment. It's referred to as an experiment, and it's localized to Staten Island, New York. It is only one island of New York where they're testing this out, but it is being broadcast via drones and something else that was a truly an interesting and great addition.
Yes.
Like they did so many interesting things in this movie for being in the Purge universe, and they lent themselves to making a stronger movie-going experience, and I'll explain. So one of the things that they did was they allowed the way that it works, because you'd think, okay, if they're announcing it's the first Purge, it's a localized thing in Staten Island, why would anyone hang around?
Right.
What's interesting is they treat it like the most crazy, over-the-top government stimulus package you've ever seen. They literally pay anyone $5,000 to stay.
Just to stay.
To stay.
That's the basic start.
And then there's a sort of a subsection of the government that is approaching other people they're offering more money to participate in the purge. And so it's this interesting setup. You start off with these short interviews, like one-on-one interviews with people, like, how do you feel about this? And it starts off with this guy they talk to called Skeletor, who ends up playing a role throughout the movie. He was really a great actor.
Yeah.
He did a great job.
He got me going.
But he was creepy. He was like, I just want to show my hate, like it was really crazy. But it made for such an interesting setup because now you have these multi-layers of people. Because the whole thing is like Marissa Tomei plays this scientist that basically presents the idea to the government, who has just been changed. They've just had an election.
The
FFA, the founding fathers of America, have just taken the seat of the president.
Right.
And so this is their plan to enact. But they have to do it in such a way where the American people kind of approve of it. And so they're doing this experiment. It's televised, or it's broadcast throughout the world. And but one of the interesting things is, how do they do that, right? Besides just drones. And what I alluded to is one of the things they do is the people that actually agree to participate in the purge, they get contact lenses that are colored fluorescent contact lenses that allow the government to record all the footage. And so what you see are people that are forced to stay, or that choose to stay because of money, but are passive participants, versus the active participants that have glowing eyes of different colors. And so that makes for some outstanding cinematic experiences when people are trying to hide and people are searching. And there's one scene in particular that I'm thinking about where a main character is wandering down an alley, and it is horrific.
Yes, it's
because
so creepy.
You just see, like, as he's walking down this alley, you see people in the window, and they're silhouettes, except for their different colored eyes. So, like, there's this green glowing eyes, and you see the silhouette, like, kind of reaching, and then there's
waving,
and, like, oh, it's so creepy, but it made for such an outstanding atmosphere building thing. And, like, it's fun because you see the emergence of certain things. You see the emergence of people going for masks. And they even ask, they're like, that's the thing. This movie asks questions, and this is still all story, asks questions that you're curious about in the other movies. Like, how do people react when the purge is being enacted? How many people are on board? Are there people that are willing to run out there and get going? No. Interesting answers you get.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many new questions this thing asks within the world of the purge.
Right.
But I'm monopolizing. Sorry, Marcia, jump in. I'm so excited to talk about it because I loved it.
Yeah, it was so good. One aspect that I really enjoyed about it was the fact that they really because they monetized this experiment and causing people to stay. They put trackers in them so that way they know that they actually did stay. And the whole time I'm thinking, you guys are so dumb. Like, do you really think they're going to pay you? They're not going to pay you because you're going to die. You know, like, that's in my head, but them, you know, that's me, like, you know,
from an outsider
3 movies
perspective.
deep, so I know they're all going to die, but I mean, one of the characters said it best is like, you know, I don't like this. Even he was in the crime syndicate, and he's like, I'm not happy for this, even though everything's legal for a day. I don't know what's happening. I can't trust it. And he was right. He shouldn't have trusted it, and or you know, nobody should have like been ever think that they were safe in that zone. And it was really interesting how they just took it to the next level, and how people slowly started coming out of their houses and seeing what was going. And there's some people who immediately took to it, and there's some people who just were having fun and just plain on fucking people. And just all those like beginnings of what you would expect of this series to have, like if a purge was to happen.
Yeah. And I will say that, you know, we've hit on the story overall, which is it's the first purge.
Yeah.
But the actual, the you know, getting down to a macro level, it's the story of a brother and a sister.
Right.
And the sister's ex-boyfriend. The brother and the sister are stuck in this situation. The sister's kind of a real do-gooder who's fighting against the purge. The brother is a confused adolescent who is trying to do his best, but he keeps getting pulled into bad situations, and he's kind of giving into them.
Right.
And then the ex happens to be like the kingpin of the local drug scene.
Right.
And he's the big badass, you know.
Yeah.
But again, yes, it is just so happens, and it is very script obvious.
But you have to.
But they have to make a good movie.
Yeah, and you're gonna have the well-rounded, like plot points, because you gotta have the crime syndicate, you gotta have the protesters, and you gotta have the person that caught in the middle. The
kid.
Innocent.
Yeah. And you get all those perspectives, and they're able to jump from one to the other, and it plays very, very well. So it's really like it made for a more interesting, again, I said it at the beginning, it made for a more engaging story than the other ones, because I was interested in all of the different storylines. Now, I will say that some of the story felt like well-trod territory at this point. I mean, it felt a little bit of Attack of the Block, because they kept hitting on the fact that this one like project was the fulcrum of the experiment.
Right. So you knew like the final draw.
It had to get there eventually.
The showdown was going to be there.
But then you know, there's so many other things that came into play that that eventually carried out and followed through. But there was a bit of Boys in the Hood. There was a bit of, I mean, even a degree of barbershop with the three, the big three, you know. So like, it hits a lot of great notes without becoming convoluted and without becoming long. Like, it's a short movie. It was an hour and a half. It was lean and mean, and I don't think it needed to be longer than that. It felt perfect. But yeah, I mean, the story was just pleasing, and that's what's nice about it, honestly.
And I think it also, well, obviously it comes down to, you know, thinning the herd, as you may say, but there's a lot of white supremacist references to it, and you kind of got that, like, oh, is this Schindler's List, or
yeah, I mean, there's some
Black Panther.
There's some crazy imagery. Yeah, I mean, there's both of those. I mean,
and it's insane, but that's the way it would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
If, you know, especially
that's the way it does get, according to the other movies.
Yeah, and
that's what's nice. It's a natural. This feels like a natural starting place, and quite honestly, I would be more than game for the second Purge. You know what I mean? Like, show me the first countrywide one next.
Yeah, I think that's where they're
going.
Where
it seems like it would be a smart way to do it, honestly, after watching this. But bridging into the actors, I will say that, unfortunately, the main girl, like, while she was good, she feels interchangeable with the cornrows girl from Sister Act. The cornrows girl that, like, she's always the one fighting for justice. Yeah. With the long cornrows that you know, look gorgeous, of course, but she's the same in every one of these movies. It's always that girl.
I like at the end that her character does seem to turn a little bit to to fit the situation.
Yeah,
is
she
what I'll
starts
say.
here, he starts here, and they kind of get closer towards the middle by the end. Yeah.
But it was a little late for my
I agree.
taste.
Well, and it felt a little convenient for my taste too, especially on the guy's end.
I think there's definitely a certain part of the story where you're just like, okay, why aren't you picking up a fucking weapon?
There's a lot of questionable decision making,
and even just it just seems weird that like they wouldn't even just pick up like some sharp object laying on. There's stuff everywhere.
But at least in this
one, you can pick something up.
But at least in this one, you can excuse it in a way you can't in the other three movies, because this one you're like, okay, this is the first time regular people have been faced with this situation, so they don't know the age old thing where it's like, see a gun, pick it up, and then you'll live through the night. You know, like
I get that at the beginning.
You think, but towards the end of the night, they should have learned from their mistakes.
Yeah, I agree. After the first time they were attacked, they should have.
There has to be a movie, though.
You can still have a movie picking up some weapons. And second of all,
what would have been great is if they had picked up like an empty gun, because they don't know, right? They pick up a gun, they think it's going to help, and then boom, you play that dramatic thing where they try and then they almost get killed, and then someone else shoots them from the side. Which we got one of those.
Yeah, the other part is they're supposed to be from the projects.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
they should
know. They shouldn't be
That's
walking.
generalizing, Marcia. How dare you?
Walking around the streets without a weapon.
Hang your head in shame. They should what? Just because they're in the PJs, they should know how to handle a weapon.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Fair enough.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the next stuff because I will say I did want to hit on the acting of the drug dealer guy.
Yeah, he was phenomenal.
he was the best in the whole movie. I honestly I think he's going to be a bigger role, a bigger star after this. Well, he was very like 50 Cent. Like he looked like. Sorry, 50 Cent. No, you're good. Sorry, I was
wondering if he linked to the guy in the last Purge, where. The underground guy.
Maybe. I can't remember. I see what you're saying. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know if they're going to link that or not, but it would make sense because, you know, you had the girl that was fighting by his side. So, and he was the king of the fucking jungle over there. So I was trying to see if they were connecting that, and I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I couldn't remember either. But he was a good actor. He played a good role. It was a bit convenient, sort of, where it ended up, and it was like, okay, you're excusing a whole lot of his past if this is how you're doing it, but you know, I'm not saying how it ends because it doesn't end up, you know, I'm not giving it away. There's still surprises, trust me.
Yeah.
But it's he was a good actor, is what I'm saying. And,
he did.
And I thought the brother was a good actor too. He was a good sort of wide-eyed, especially when he needed to be, because even his contacts were pretty interesting. Yeah. But nonetheless, so the acting was good. Let's talk about you want to talk about the effects or the sound and music first? I
love the sound and the music. And it was a wide range of music too, which I like, but each one really played for the scene. And it really helped pump you up and get you in the mood and freak you out and get your nerves going. And they did such a great job. And I'm not hip to a lot of the new like music out there right now. I just
Me either.
I'm not a 12-year-old girl. I don't have time for that. But
well, it's not 12-year-old girl music that was featured here. It wasn't like Tay Tay.
Did you grow up in the 90s? We were listening to stuff like that when we were
No, but 12. It wasn't. No, but the stuff that young girls like now is like Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber. It wasn't that kind of stuff.
No, there's girls out there.
Well, I'm sure there are. Yeah.
But I'm just saying they have a lot more time in their hands to experience this new music, and so a lot of the music that played. It was really fresh to me, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And I thought they really played to the scenes. Sound effects were as what you can expect for them.
I liked how they messed with the sound, especially with Skeletor when he was chasing after someone, and how the voice was being thrown different places. Yeah. I thought that was neat. But specifically, I wanted to hit on the music because there was hip hop where like was appropriate when you were introducing like gangs and stuff like that, and then there was really good driving scores when the action was going on. Yep. And then, honestly, there was some really, really good, clever use of what absolutely must have been zeal and ardor.
Yeah.
Because it was when they showed the first a bunch of screens showing the carnage that was being watched. They actually played some Zeal and Ardor, and if you know Zeal and Ardor, look it up. It's Zeal and Ardor. It's like hard slave rock. And that's what they were doing, and it made perfect sense, obviously, because they're focusing on the lower income housing and stuff like that, and it was cool. And it's black people and other cultures fighting for their lives, while this sort of slave music with you can hear like chains rattling and whipping to the beat, and like I love Zeal and Ardor, like it's such good like deep rock, and like the fact that they leaned on it like at least 3 different times in this movie, it felt like. And I could be wrong. Maybe it's someone like mimicking that, but Zeal and Ardor are the ones that I know, and it was phenomenal, and it fit so well. Again, they did everything in their power to keep you engaged.
And I was the whole time. I was on edge, and I was like, anxiety was high as soon as I heard that siren.
Oh my god!
My god, the siren! You're just all like, oh well, you guys don't know what the fuck's about to happen.
Well, and it's awesome because that siren signifies 2 different things. Like the siren makes you breathe in, and then you don't exhale until you hear the siren again. You're like, oh,
yeah. It's such a brilliant series. It really is. I love this series so much.
It makes me actually more excited, and we need to do this reaction. They just dropped the trailer for the Purge TV series. We need to do that reaction, but. I'm excited for the series now. But yeah, this was great. The cinematography was great. I don't feel like there were as many iconic purgers in this one as compared to the last ones. Yeah. For sure, that's the case. But they were focusing on something else. This wasn't about the purgers. This was about the emergence of the purge, and this is about the remnants of society. Like, this is the rise of the Planet of the Apes of the Purge series. Like, this is the beginning of the fall. Yeah. And there's even a homeless woman holding a sign that says, is this the end or is it the beginning? Right. And I'm like, that's really clever, because every time we see cardboard signs, it's like, the end is here, and it's like, that's what you'd expect. And then it's like, no, or is it the beginning? And it's like, man, I just... There was a lot to really like in this film, and I thought. I
thought so, too. Like, you didn't have a lot of those traps, but there were, when they were effective. So, you had, I don't want to give away all the traps, but, you had a couple people set up, like, little bomb areas that set off.
That's great.
They had awesome. A nice little... Like snatch and grab, literally snatch and grab.
Or grab and snatch.
Grab and snatch. Oh, man. That was hard to watch. As a woman, it was kind of hard to watch. And then I was like, she still didn't pick up no fucking weapon. I don't get it.
That's really bothered you. No, and I understand why, because again, there are some conveniences to the movie. I don't want to say this was a perfect movie, because it wasn't. There are some poor character choices, and there are some story conveniences that occur, but it's all in service to a more entertaining story. Yeah. Or a more entertaining experience, I'll say. So I don't know. I think that's where we should maybe call the regular review. I am going to say we're going to do a little spoiler discussion after this, because while at first we were like, there's not much really to spoil if you haven't seen the movie, but I disagree in thinking about it. I think there are some things we can talk about, some of the things we just alluded to. So we're going to do that. We're going to cut it here, but I don't know. I'm thinking I want to start doing a little bit more ratings and stuff like that. Okay. So I would say I would give this, if I'm going to give it out of 10, I would give this one an 8.5.
Oh, I was just thinking 8.5.
Really?
That's so weird. That is so weird.
8.5, because it's not quite a 9, because 9 is pretty close to perfect, but it's not. It's better than an 8 too. Yeah. Like it.
I gave it more points because it is not only is it the 4th in the series, but it was a prequel. Yeah. And they pulled it off, and then some. So I think each time they do this, they get a better idea. Like, they have a round table. They're like, how can we make this better? Right. And they make it better, and they make it effective, and they get points for that, for sure.
Absolutely. I agree. So, yeah, guys, that's going to do it for our regular review of The First Purge. Do go check it out. I do think it's worth the theater experience, especially opening weekend or the second week, because the audience reacts well in this movie. But I do want to say thank you guys very much for watching. Special thank you to all the patrons out there. We did launch our Patreon last month, and it's been going for about a month. We've already done 2 film commentaries, 2 reviews, and more. You guys just haven't seen it yet. So the link is in the description box down below for our Patreon, as well as our TeePublic site if you want to get some stuff that's going to help support the channel. But thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you go purge this weekend. I've been Cecil Laird.
Marcia Parker.
And remember, stay scared.